I tried to make the slurping sound so I don't have to put the edit over it. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrazi if you are new here, and thank you for clicking on this video. And by the title, I'm assuming you want to have a chat about all things Black Lives Matter. And I'm here to help you. I'm a little nervous for this video, but I want to start off by saying that this is not going to be the most politically correct conversation that you've ever had. Yes, we're having a conversation. That's what that feels like to me. I'm gonna act like I'm talking to my friends because a lot of you are my freaking friends, and I just want this to be in the most casual but educational format possible. So please excuse me if anything comes off a little aggressive or blunt, because we're just having a chat, you know? I shouldn't have to tiptoe around your feelings. I shouldn't have to tiptoe around my feelings. This is a safe space to do that. I also do want to say before we get started that I feel like I have come into my power as a Black woman. I feel that through this specific movement right now, these last 3 weeks or so, that I have been more empowered as a Black woman than I ever have in my life. And now that I have been able to express so many underlying and internalized feelings, I feel like as a Black woman, as a Black girl growing up, I have felt silenced. We have consistently always avoided fitting that stigma of being an angry Black woman, or trying to pull the race card whenever we can, and I'm willing to pull that card. We pulling cards now, y'all. We are not going to be silenced any longer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start with me. I am 24 years old. I am half Black, half Vietnamese. My dad is full Black, my mom is full Vietnamese, and I was born and raised in Las Vegas. Now, Las Vegas wasn't the most diverse place when I was born, and my dad was one of a handful of Black men in Vegas, I feel like, at the time. On top of just being a 90s baby, there's still just some judgments with biracial children, and still obviously some prejudices and racism towards Black people in general. And it wasn't until I started really thinking about my childhood recently of all the underlying racism and microaggressions that I faced as a child. And my dad probably knows I'm going to talk about this, but one very specific occurrence was when I was about 4 years old, and my dad was bartending at this restaurant, and I was running around the restaurant. I was friends with all the staff. Like, I came to work with him all the time. We ate at the restaurant all the time, obviously. And this white woman and her son are sitting at the bar, and I'm clicking my pop socket. I hope that wasn't annoying. I do it when I get nervous. I'm like so fidgety. But this white woman like grabs like a waitress or whatever and goes, "Who is the mother of that nword baby?" Pretty much. I'm just gonna like summarize what that is. And the waitress walks over to my dad, and they're like, "Oh, hey, someone just asked who the mother of that baby was." And my dad was like, "Excuse me, they asked you what?" And that resulted in a fight. But long story short, like, I've been receiving just like derogatory comments from racist people, like pretty sure probably my entire life. But then that also boils down to microaggressions, not only from the white community, such as, "You're so pretty for a Black girl," "Your hair is not like a Black girl," "What are you mixed with?" Because clearly you can't be a beautiful Black girl unless you're mixed. I'm just like, you know, air quoting everything that I'm saying pretty much. "You don't sound like a Black girl," "You don't act like a Black girl," "You talk so well for a Black girl," "I'm an Oreo," "I'm whitewashed," received it all, I've gotten it all, and it was even just uncomfortable growing up biracial, because not only am I not just black and white, because I feel like a lot of people just associate being light-skinned with being half black and half white. I'm half Asian, so Asians can't tell that I'm Asian. I'm not black enough to be friends with all the black girls, and I'm not white enough to be friends with the white people, even though I'm not white. And I didn't face a lot of exclusion. Like, it wasn't like that nobody wanted to be friends with me. I just didn't feel like that I 100% belong here, because I'm biracial. So I had friends, I had black friends, I had Asian friends, I had white friends. I didn't face too much discrimination in school. I didn't face too much like craziness in school, but I mean, obviously the underlying microaggressions and stuff were there. And I even remember one time, probably in kindergarten, I was friends with a white girl, and I remember us like walking out of school together one day or something like that, and her coming to school the next day, I'm pretty sure, and saying like, oh, my parents saw us yesterday like hanging out, and they said I'm not allowed to be friends with you because you're a black girl. And that's where the importance of anti-racism exists, because you taught, like, she quite literally got taught racism by her parents for telling her not to hang out with that black girl. So I feel like that's enough of my backstory. I don't want this to be too long. I could probably just talk about myself all day. Let's just go ahead and get into some questions. Starting with the first question, which kind of goes off of just me introducing myself. How much diversity was in my schools, like growing up? I didn't have a lot of diversity growing up, but I also wasn't exclusively the only black girl in my entire school, which a lot of people have experienced, and I can see why that would be like so detrimental to someone's like identity. I was raised in a predominantly white community, white school. Like, obviously black people and people of color are minorities, so there's only so many of us. And I had one black teacher my entire education, from pre-K to my senior year of college, like graduating college, and she was my kindergarten teacher, and her name was Miss Johnson. Love you, Miss Johnson. Thank you so much. But I've always been like one of 2 or 3 black kids in class. It's like something I'm totally used to. That's like my norm. In college, the University of Nevada, Reno is very predominantly white, but there are a lot of black athletes. There are a lot of black students. We had a black student union organization, and I was always one of a few black girls and some football players, or a couple black girls from the volleyball team. Like, it was predominantly athletes that were making up the black student population. Don't capitalize on black athletes if you can't stand up for black lives. I can go all day. I don't even know how this video is going to be remotely organized, but not very diverse, but diverse enough for me to be comfortable in my skin in school. Another girl asked, do you feel as though you need more black friends that you can relate to in your life? And 100%, I feel like I have not built enough close, deep bonds with a lot of black women, or black people in general, black women or men, that could have definitely allowed me to step into my power as a black woman a lot sooner. And I feel like me and Libby have bonded over like being black and being biracial and being black in the fitness industry a lot since we started our friendship. But I feel like Danielle and Tay, well, Danielle, Tay, Libby, and I have a group message that started in the thick of the Black Lives Matter movement, and we have just all been able to open up and be so vulnerable on such a deeper level, and that's something I'm so grateful for. And I'm just so glad that through this movement, it, at the expense of George Floyd's life and Breonna Taylor's life and Ahmaud Arbery's life and every other black life that we've lost, so much good has come of this, and so much awareness has been spread, and I feel like we can truly make a difference if we keep at it. So Do I need more black friends? Yes. Am I so glad at the black friends that I do have? Yes. Do I think black kids should be set up to have relationships with other black kids? 100%. And that's something that I should have like had when I was younger, for sure. I got this question that said, how many companies, friends did you have to speak to, call out, and did it surprise you? And I got a ton of questions about who we're canceling, who we're not supporting, who I decided not to support, who I unfollowed. I won't get into details. To start off, I don't believe in cancel culture. Like, I don't believe that we should all just set out to cancel people and not give them a chance to grow and learn and be held accountable. In most circumstances, let me just add that on there, that is subjective, because I have called out a few companies, and at the time I actually spoke about this on Desvi's podcast this morning, so I don't want to like give up the whole podcast. But when in the heat of the moment, when everything was first transpiring, I was furious, because as a black woman that just now feels so damn empowered as a black woman to have followers and friends, because my followers are not just followers, like friends, my family, reach out to me and say, hey, I'm holding brands accountable like you said. They're deleting my comments. They blocked me. I didn't say anything aggressive. I didn't say anything mean. I was just asking them where their support was for the Black Lives Matter movement. And comments were being deleted and filtered, and people were being blocked. I felt like you were trying to silence me again. You were trying to silence my community again. And when I say that, I don't just mean the black community. I'm saying anybody in general that is standing up for this movement was being silenced. And I was furious. So in a perfect world, I wouldn't have been so aggressive on my story. But as a black woman who has a lot of emotion surfacing and was triggered by a lot of stuff happening, I was a little aggressive, I'm sorry. Let's chat performative activism, which I did on my story this morning, and I just want to summarize it real quick because even that turned into a long talk. Performative activism is when, in this specific scenario, is when a company starts promoting Black Lives Matter after they've been called out. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying performative activism is not a bad thing, because at the end of the day, a win is a win. And at the end of the day, we were able to get this company to spread awareness. We were able to get this company to stand up, especially if they're donating and stuff. Like, even if that was guilt money, even if that was non-genuine donations, like, we still got black organizations, Black Lives Matter organizations donated to, and every single one of your followers was able to see, like, some type of awareness spread on your page. Do I, as a black woman, as a black influencer, as a black athlete, agree or support brands that only posted because of performative activism? No, absolutely not. As a black woman, as a black person, as a black athlete, as the black community, I personally wouldn't support anybody who only posted because of performative activism, because they wanted to put on a front in front of social media so they don't lose too many consumers. And I told Des this on her podcast this morning. I think companies, when George Floyd's death first went viral and the Black Lives Matter movement started progressing, like, it gradually started being talked about, and then it became the only thing that was happening on social media. I think personally that companies thought it was going to blow over and they were not going to have to post about Black Lives Matter, and that they would get to keep the following that might be racist or might be ignorant or might be All Lives Matter activists or Blue Lives Matter activists. And I want to talk about this after I hit these points, that without being able to say anything, they could keep this entire group of consumers, and they could keep their black consumers and Black Lives Matter consumers that they thought weren't going to hold them accountable to say anything. So now we push like a week of activism online. All the companies that have already spoken up have spoken up because they felt it in their morals and values to speak up for the black community. And as the weekend goes by and we're getting near Blackout Tuesday, companies are being called out they quite possibly might be receiving threats and being called a bully and being called racist, and I don't agree with any of that. There's too much hate in the world. I don't think anybody needs to be called racist, but I understand out of anger why you may attack somebody. I'm not invalidating anybody's feelings. But as Blackout Tuesday comes around, these companies are realizing this isn't going to blow over, they're going to lose a lot of consumers, and they need to save face. So they post this Blackout Tuesday square. A majority of them still didn't say Black Lives Matter. A majority of them still thought that they could like wait it out and show support by posting Blackout Tuesday, and then it would die down from there. Still didn't die down from there. If you posted just a black square and you didn't post anything about Black Lives Mattering and you support the black community during this time, you still got hate. And I understand this feeling of like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, we didn't know what to say, and then we posted, and now we're still getting hate, and now, well, racism is uncomfortable, and the black community has been uncomfortable a huge majority of our lives. I'm pretty sure I've been uncomfortable my entire life. I've always been afraid to speak up for myself, and that's just from systemic racism silencing the black community because we don't want to be problematic. So these uncomfortable 3 weeks that you've had are nothing in comparison to what we've been dealing with as a community, as black people. So I'm not empathizing with you. Like, I understand that you're learning. I understand that you might not have realized how important this was to some people, but now you do. So to summarize this, no, I do not support performative activism, but I do support some of those who have stayed with companies that are using performative activism in hopes that as an ally for the black community that you will hold your company accountable to do better and to not only for this movement show support to the black community, but do better in general in terms of your morals and values and what they stand for as a brand. And that's where I don't believe in cancel culture, because everybody has room to grow. Everybody can do better. We can all do better. I'm doing better. I'm using my voice. I'm using my platform. I'm not afraid to stand up for what the fuck I believe in. And I feel like this is a huge turning point in me and my platform and my brand and just me being empowered as a black woman. And I'm very grateful for that. So that's pretty much my summary. But I do want to mention my analogy, and I'm sure a lot of you know what analogy I'm talking about. The performative activism analogy of a cheating boyfriend. I say boyfriend, significant other, girlfriend, but so say you're in a relationship, and this relationship can be the relationship that you have with the brands that you support. But this is the relationship that I have with my man, okay? I'll talk as if I'm talking about myself. It's not about me. Why am I so petty? I'm in a relationship with my man. He's been cheating our whole relationship. Never found out, never knew. So then I finally catch him cheating, and he apologizes and he gives me flowers and gets my nails done and gets my toes done and apologizes and just promises that he's gonna do better next time. You're not apologizing because you were cheating and because you were being a shitty human. You're apologizing because you got caught. The same reason why these companies are performing performative activism, because they got called out. Am I gonna take back the cheating ex? Emphasis on X? No. Do you want to take back the cheating ex and see if they'll do better next time and hold them accountable? You might. That's your decision. But I'm not taking back no exes around here, baby. We don't do that cheating shit. So this wasn't a question, but this is definitely something that I wanted to touch on in this video. It's an important topic to cover. Systemic institutionalized racism. Racism is quite literally embedded into our country. I actually saw on Ariana Dantone's post today that Texas is now calling master bedrooms primary bedrooms because a master is referring to a slave owner. So that's how institutionalized it is into our society, that we don't even realize how deep it's ingrained. And we're raised to have implicit biases. It's very, very deep. I could talk about it all day, but I won't get that deep into it, but I will leave some resources down below. Harvard conducts a test of implicit bias. We associate white with clouds and godly and angels, and happy, and black with like darkness and scary and negative connotations, obviously, for black, and a lot more happy, pure connotations with white. That also translates to skin complexion. And I feel like there is such a derogatory connotation with black people that when Black Lives Matter, I feel like a lot of people are educated now, but when Black Lives Matter was first going really hard a couple weeks ago, that our white counterparts and just non-blacks in general that have very, very implicit deep biases felt as if Black Lives Matter was like dangerous, associating it with the looting and the rioting and just threats and violence and being scared to empower black people. And that stems from the deep implicit bias of black people being dangerous, black people being criminals, being violent, being aggressive, aggressors, like being in danger because of black people. Now, in regards to the rioting and the looting versus the protesting, I've been telling everybody this that had questions about how do you say Black Lives Matter, but what if you don't agree with the violence? Protesters are protesting, looters are looting, rioters are rioting. It does not mean that all peaceful protesters should be associated with looting and rioting. On top of the fact that looting and rioting has been geared towards aggressive black people, when there have been a lot of white people looting and rioting, opportunists that are taking the opportunity of using peaceful protest to go rob stores, to cause havoc, to be batshit crazy and cause problems. A peaceful protest can go from peaceful to terrifying in a split second, and aggressors, whether they're white or black, or the white people that have quite literally been set up to cause problems, the media is going to get all over it and talk about how we can't peaceful protest and how all we want to do is riot and loot. And I personally don't support rioting and looting. I don't think we should be fighting hate with hate, but I also am not invalidating anybody's feelings. I will never invalidate anybody's feelings, and I can understand why people are so angry. I really do. But let me also remind you that Black Lives Matter is not anti-police. Black Lives Matter is not pro-looting. Black Lives Matter is not pro-rioting. Black Lives Matter is not pro-violence. Black lives can simply just matter. And I'm frustrated with the fact that people act like they can't clarify where they stand or explain where they stand with the Black Lives Matter movement. Tell me that my life matters. Tell me that the life of my family, my brothers and my dad and my uncles and my cousin matter. But then you can say that you do have a police officer boyfriend that you support. If you can't simply acknowledge the fact that black lives are being killed at a disproportionate rate by the police, then there's a problem. Ahmaud Arbery wasn't even killed by police. Well, a former police officer, I believe. That our lives are actually quite literally in danger. And if you want to talk damned if you do, damned if you don't, I can either sit on my ass and pray to God that one day I won't be Breonna Taylor and that my dad won't be George Floyd, or I can peaceful protest that quite possibly might turn into rioting and looting, where I might get tear gassed and I might get shot with rubber bullets, but I'm in danger regardless. My skin is a threat. The skin of my black brothers and sisters is a threat, and that's where there's a problem, and that's where that needs to be acknowledged. So this is where silence is violence comes into play, because especially in the influencer industry, but even as a normal human with a small following of just friends and family on social media, you shouldn't be afraid to speak up for injustices that are occurring in fear of what other people might say, because you want the support and you want the friendships or from what I'm gathering, you want the support and you want the friendships of racists or non-racists that aren't anti-racist. And at this point, we need anti-racists on our side. And I watched this video today. It was an IGTV, and it said, the victim should not have to stand up for themselves. If you are seeing injustices occur in our country, you should stand up for those who are unjustly being victimized and killed and murdered because of our skin color. The topic that I want to address is that I've honestly been a little afraid to say this because I feel like it comes from like a ignorance is bliss kind of perspective, but I know that it's not. I'm pretty sure at this point, everybody on social media, white counterparts, black influencers, non-blacks, other people of color, have seen more educational movies regarding the endangerment of black lives and the racism that is in our country, the systemic racism that is in our country. Because a majority of those movies I can't watch because I am triggered. We've seen videos of black men and women dying, specifically in police custody, unjustly. It's traumatic. It's very, very fucking traumatic. And I know it's for educational purposes. I know these movies help so many people and they open their eyes to like what's occurring, but I can't watch them. It genuinely hurts. That's how scary it is being a black woman, that I can't even enjoy movies made for the education of what we are going through as a black community, because it is traumatizing. I saw Fruitvale Station once and it ripped me to shreds. So I definitely want to see Just Mercy though, and I'll probably watch the 13th, but like the fact that I have pain and hurt in my heart by watching these back, I feel like can just touch on like how scary it is to be in the black community. And even worse than that, I fear for my children. And I don't know how I will be able to have conversations with my black children on how to stay safe or precautions to take to stay as safe as possible, but that they still might be in danger because of their skin color, even if they're not posing a real threat, because their skin color is a threat. So the underlying embedded terrifying thoughts that are in my head, and just thoughts that I keep to myself as a black woman, or that I've always kept to myself as a black woman, to not be problematic, or even just the precautions that I need to take as a black woman to not be seen as a threat, is crazy. And that's also where white privilege comes into play, because when people say white privilege, they're not saying that you haven't gone through struggles. They're not saying that you haven't worked hard as fuck for what you have in life. They're simply saying that your skin color has not been a limitation for your success, and that you don't walk out the door fearing that you might not come home because of your skin color. And that in itself speaks volumes. And on a lighter note, I had some people ask me about relationships and preferences and fetishizing of biracial babies and black men. And it's a very hard topic, but I know that I will be with, and that I have always been attracted to, and that I want to support and love a black man. I feel like no one can love a black man better than I can, you know? Like, I know the struggle of being a black woman, and I want to support you as a black man, and I want to raise black babies. Now, biracial babies are fetishized, and it's kind of creepy, because people might not even have a preference of dating a black man, black woman, or vice versa, any possible combination of biracial. if you plan to date somebody that you might not technically prefer, or that you are solely out to date because of the race of your children, then that's really weird. And even worse than that, do you know how to raise a black child in America? That's the real question, because I'm not sure I know how to raise a black child in America as a black woman that's gonna have a black husband. So, the fetishizing of mixed babies, I get it. They're cute, they're adorable, they make beautiful mixes. I'm biracial, I understand, I really do get it, but just really tap in to why you fetishize biracial children, and if that's something that you'd really be willing to properly educate yourself on and educate your children and have an open conversation with your significant other about having biracial children and how they'll be raised in America or in society in general.
Hey you guys, I'm currently editing this video and I just wanted to hop on here real quick and clarify that in no way am I undermining or saying that I'm not supportive of interracial relationships. So supportive of interracial relationships, so supportive of love. I love love, any type of love. I'm speaking specifically about those who are seeking mixed race babies and dating or like getting pregnant solely based off the mix and the ethnicities that their children will be, to have a pretty light-skinned baby with colored eyes and not genuinely wanting to properly educate themselves or even support Black lives in general. I'll post a tweet that I saw of a girl quite literally invalidating the blackness of her mixed nieces and nephews because they can have mixed babies and not have to support Black lives. And that's where I just kind of like went on a total tangent in this video and didn't get to really clarify like exactly where I stand. So I hope that clears everything up.
I think this is like my second to last question, and it's a sensitive topic. I'm just gonna say it in general. Pretty much my views on the N-word. Why we're able to say it as a Black community, why we don't want other people to say it who are non-Blacks, how I feel about non-Blacks saying it even if it's in a song. And I have been ignorant to this as well because I've grown up around people saying the N-word very loosely, Black and non-Black. And I didn't necessarily, it's kind of like, oh, that's a little awkward, but it was never like I'm gonna confront you for singing it in this song. And especially like in college, like everybody was singing all these crazy songs. And let's start with why. Why, how can Black people say it and expect other people not to say it? Well, the N-word with the ER is one of the most derogatory words that have been used in history to belittle and pretty much invalidate Blacks as human beings. And I don't think there's very many words that equate to the N-word, because many other cases your skin color is not hindering you as a human being. And us being the strong Black people that we are, we're able to take this derogatory, insulting, degrading word and turned it into a term of endearment and love and support and everything positive about the Black community. Honestly, I do use the word, it's in my vocabulary, and I honestly, especially due to the power in my voice now from these last few weeks, don't think it's fair for any non-Black to claim that they have the right to say that word because Black artists put it into Black music. Just don't say it then. No, we can say it then. You just can't say it then. We as a community have constantly been underrepresented, undersupported, underacknowledged. Everybody can reap the benefits of Black art and Black music and Black culture and Black hairstyles and Black skin. But nobody stands up for us until now for our Black lives when we're losing our lives on camera, off camera, in the streets, at the hands of those who are supposed to protect us. I think we have the right to a word that we were able to repurpose and find power through it as a community. It's like a little deep, but it's deep. It really is that deep. I feel like this is a good way to wrap up this video because I'm pretty sure I have like 40 minutes of content and this is just going to be a very long video. But just for future reference, especially now that the social media hype of the Black Lives Matter movement is kind of subsiding, we're all still, a majority of us are still sharing resources and being activists for the Black Lives Matter movement post-hype. But here is where the behind the scenes actions are important. You have to keep signing the petitions, and I would suggest still sharing them. You have to keep donating when you can. You have to keep educating yourself. You have to keep being resourceful. You have to keep having uncomfortable conversations. You have to keep confronting situations that might prevent somebody from being racist in the future. And I don't know if you guys saw this story about this white woman who was leaving, I think Target it was, next to a black man. And the security system goes off when they're leaving, and they grab the black man, and they're like, oh, hey, like, let me check your bags, or whatever the case may be. And this white woman walks straight out the door. Well, was able to walk straight out the door, and she asked the security guard, oh, do you want to check me? And the security guard's like, no, you're good to go. And she, by her asking, and I think standing up in that scenario, because I think she said something along the lines like, why are you going to check him and not check me because he's a black man and because I'm a white woman? That's where the long-term changes are made. You have to be uncomfortable. Racism is uncomfortable. It's not going to be some easy breezy like situation, scenario, change, movement that we're going to make. And it's going to be the long-term habits that will make the biggest difference. And I think that's where it comes into being an ally. And I don't think, or I would hope that that security guard at Target from that one occurrence will unjustly or prejudiciously check a black man and not a white woman because he was called out. And that's how we can make the long-term changes. I hope this video wasn't all over the place. I hope that you gained something from this video, a better understanding of something from this video, and keep speaking up, keep using your voice, keep educating yourself, keep sharing resources, keep having uncomfortable conversations, keep confronting people, because that's how we're going to keep this movement going, and we have a long way to go. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's some topics I didn't get a chance to touch on, so maybe I'll have to do a baby part 2 or incorporate it into another Q&A or something like that. But let me know what you think. Leave any thoughts down below. I'd love to chat. I love, you know, hearing other perspectives, talking about stuff, educating people, being a resource. I love being a resource for the Black community. And I promise to continue using my voice. I promise to keep using my platform. And I am an unsilenced Black woman, and I'm very fucking proud of it. And just expect a lot more from me as a Black influencer for sure. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.